Greenville, South Carolina, one of the fastest growing cities in the Southeast. A booming economy, a charming downtown, and a place many call home. But there's a problem. If you've ever searched Greenville crime rate, you've probably seen this. That stat alone has scared off thousands of families thinking about making the move here. But what if I told you it's all a lie? I dug deep into this. And what I found is pretty shocking. The crime data that's scaring people away, it's outdated. It's misleading and maybe even intentionally exaggerated. So today, we're breaking down what's really going on with Greenville's so-called crime rate, whether you should actually be. Because if this myth is stopping you from moving here, you need to see the truth for yourself. Lady of the Lake says, looking to relocate from South Carolina and wondering if Greenville, South Carolina is safe. We've heard that it's one of the highest crime rates in the country and in South Carolina as a whole. Is this a true depiction of the area? If you had your choice, would you relocate here? And in response to that, someone said, where did you hear that? She then replied saying, with a crime rate of 49 per 1,000 residents, Greenville has one of the highest crime rates in America compared to all communities of all sizes, from the smallest towns to the very largest cities. One's chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime here is 1 in 21. Within South Carolina, more than 80% of communities have a lower crime rate than Greenville. She pulled up a link to a website where the crime data from Greenville is shown. We'll get to that back in a minute, but let's look at some few other comments from people. Pepsi of Wrath said, Greenville's crime numbers are higher than average, but I don't know if it's a stay out of a couple of bad areas and you're fine, or yeah, things go missing, it happens kind of thing. Not sure I trust the crime map. And he pulls up a link to the same website with the crime data. Again, we'll get back to this in a minute. IT says, I'll preface this by saying I've never actually been to Greenville or South Carolina for that matter. Man, what are we doing? But I'm planning to relocate my family, me, husband, and my 2 young kids, was recommending Greenville. After doing literally days worth of nonstop research on houses, jobs, city, etc., I'm completely sold. It honestly almost seemed too good to be true. Then I looked at the crime data on Neighborhood Scout, the same website that we've been holding on to. Just one last comment before we dive onto that website. And Mr. Bill says, hello everyone. My wife and I are considering a job offer that would land us in Greenville. Everything I read online is positive, with the exception of a higher than average crime rate. And by this point, we're pretty much sure where they found those higher than average crime rates. Neighborhoods Scout. Let's pull back that curtain now and see what's really going on. All right, now let's go visit Neighborhood Scout, see where these stats are really coming from. Now, as we go through this website, we can see that number 1, highlight Greenville, South Carolina. Number 2, we know that there are a lot of suburbs that trend around Greenville, South Carolina right here that may or may not be included in these statistics. We also see right here that Neighborhood Scout lists for us the top 10 safest Greenville area neighborhoods according to them. Do I agree with this list? They are safe neighborhoods for sure. Are they safer? In my opinion, maybe so, but let's keep going. So down here, we see total crime index of 4. 100 is the safest. This says that Greenville, South Carolina is safer than just 4% of cities. Over here too, we see all the annual crimes. We see violence, we see property. We see that crime rate based on per 1,000 residents. Here we go, violent crime comparison. We see where South Carolina sits over here at 4.71, Greenville 6.18. So this little graph right here is telling us that, hey, Greenville is a little bit not safer than South Carolina in the whole. Chances of becoming a violent crime victim, 1 in 162 in Greenville and 1 in 212 in South Carolina. So here we go, a little bit more. Greenville violent crimes telling us the population 72,000. Sounds about right in the city of Greenville, not Greenville County. We're almost at 500,000. And here we go right here, a little bit comparative numbers right here for United States violent crimes. So a little bit more of those property crime per 1,000 residents. We see again, Greenville, 38 people per 1,000. State of South Carolina, a little under 22 per 1,000. So again, it is telling us that you have a 1 in 26 chance of being a victim of a property crime here in Greenville, and 1 in 46 in the state of South Carolina. So in theory, this website is telling us that you have double the chance of being a victim of a property crime here in Greenville than you do elsewhere in the state. So this is interesting. This is the first time that I've been on Neighborhood Scout. This is for sure scary, especially if you are a potential buyer looking to move to Greenville, South Carolina. Hey, is this really true right here? I mean, this scares me. But as a native of Greenville, South Carolina, I think I know the real answer. Let's see what else we have to say. Let's take a look at some real responses from locals on Reddit. And spoiler alert, it tells a very different story. FF Ball says, those are the actual statistics. I also remember seeing them when moving here. The truth is that the demographics of Greenville are still very segregated among wealth and racial lines. Depending on which side of the line you are, Greenville is either one of the safest cities in the country to live in or fairly dangerous. Panic 492 says, crime, like many areas, is indeed contained to certain areas. Greenville as a whole is extremely safe. Downtown Greenville, largely safe. Simpsonville and Greer, largely safe. I feel much more safe in Greenville than Asheville, Charlotte, Charleston, and the list goes on and on. SB Justin says, not sure where you read all that, but it's definitely not true. We did have a choice and choose to relocate here 6 years ago from Northern Virginia because we love the area and still do. We live in Travelers Rest and really like the atmosphere here. Stuff Hobbs says, seriously, I'd take a look at those statistics again. Every month or so, I find another article about Greenville and how it's up and coming. I moved here from New York and love it. The downtown area is wonderful and Falls Park is amazing. The neighbors are super friendly. Half the people I meet are transplants from all over the U.S., mostly Northeast and West Coast. So, Bobs, you are true on that. There are a lot of people moving here from the West Coast and from the Northeast. And so, Bomb Guy says, Southern Californian, now living in Greenville, feel plenty safe here. To which the Lady of the Lake replied with the stats from the website. My chances of becoming a victim of a violent crime, 1 in 180 in Greenville, 1 in 205 in South Carolina. With a crime rate of 49 per 1,000 residents, Greenville has one of the highest crime rates in America compared to all communities of all sizes. And as a response to which, Stuff Hobbs said, I noticed the site didn't have any dates on it. I know about 20 years ago, Greenville was kind of run down and you could buy land for pennies on the dollar. Not sure if that's quite true, but it was definitely cheaper 20 years ago. But after the BMW plant moved in, the town hit an economic boom. That is true. I would recheck those statistics for the years 2015. No. Now, you can probably see the whole picture more clearly. I'll read this last response from Scout Sarah, which sums it all up. And Scout Sarah says, I only moved here about 5 years ago now. In the first 3 months, my car got stolen. But guess why that happened? I left it running outside my apartment to let the heater defrost the window. I went back inside to get my stuff together. When I came out, the car was gone. They found it 2 days later on the side of the road in Greer with all the gas out of it. And whoever stole it was nice enough to clean the car out of everything to cover any potential evidence. Thanks for the cleaning. Which somehow left it cleaner than I normally kept it. And then left the keys on the roof of the car. Even better. Even our car thieves are considerate. When I was moving from the apartment into a house I found for rent, the people I worked with were telling me I was moving to the hood. And I better be careful. My neighbor across the road is 90 years old. The worst thing he does is mow his yard daily, or at least walk around the yard pulling weed by hand. My other neighbors are super quiet. That guy 2 houses down introduced himself and told me he's a retired military officer with PTSD. So he doesn't sleep much. That if I ever need help, no matter what time it is, to come by. And told me if I see someone with a flashlight at night, he's just watching out for the neighbors while walking his dog, like a neighborhood watch type. After living in Savannah, Georgia for 27 years, people have no clue here what hood is. I want to take all the people who told me that down to Savannah and show them the places that we call hood, like the Dirty 30s. Also, I deliver food for a living for a family-owned shop. 90% of the places I go are nice little suburban, cookie-cutter neighborhoods and farmland with cows and sheep, and one yard even has an alpaca and mini horse. If someone publishing how terrible this area is for shock value and ratings on a website, then needs some ad revenue. My friends in Savannah tried to scare me away from moving here by posting articles talking about how bad it was. I'm glad I didn't listen to him because I needed a change, and I've never been happier in my life. I love my job, I love the customers and the scenery I get to enjoy daily. The weather here is unpredictable, but it doesn't get 115 degrees like it did in Savannah summers. It only snows about 2 to 3 days out of the year period. That is true. I didn't get to see any snow in my entire life before I came here. There's just enough of it for me to enjoy right now. I have an older house I'm renting in a quiet neighborhood, and it's perfect. I also checked if other websites are showing the same crime rate or not. And not surprisingly enough, US News gives Greenville a rating of 8.3 out of 10 for safety and says Greenville has a lower crime rate than similarly sized metros area. And the crime analysis unit of the Greenville Police Department says this as well, and I quote, Greenville is a very safe city. The chance of being a victim of crime is low. So, is Greenville dangerous? Or is it more of a facade? You know the answer now. We found out how false information on some credible website can cause so much stress and confusion among people. The stats need to change for sure. That's it for this video. And hey, if this video helped clear up some of the confusion, do me a favor. Hit that like button so more people can see the real story. And if you're still debating whether Greenville is the right move for you, check out this video next, where we break down Greenville's top neighborhoods to live in. Trust me, you'll want to see it. Adios.